Jordan Ellis here for LowKick, mate. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Frank Bonada, and we're going to be previewing UFC 273. It takes place on April 9th, is it?
I think so.
April 9th, and it's going to be headlined by Alexander Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie, and we'll jump straight into that fight. Obviously, we were meant to get Volkanovski Holloway 3. We've been waiting for it for a while. It's definitely the number 1 and number 2, but Holloway drops out. In comes Korean Zombie. It's not a bad replacement, is it, Frank?
It's not bad, but it's still a bit lopsided in my opinion. The top of this card is a lot of big names, big fights, with kind of semi-predictable outcomes, in my opinion. And the top one, I just look at it and, I love Korean Zombie. I'm a huge fan of his, have been for a long time. And I've been looking at ways for him to win this fight. And I can't really see one aspect of his game that's going to overcome Volkanovski, which is a shame. But I think it's just credit to Volkanovski's skill and just like how elite he really is. He is, in my opinion, possibly the pound for pound best in the UFC. I know the UFC's got its own official rankings, but I think just skill for skill, he is on another level. And whilst I love Korean Zombie, I just can't see him winning this one.
Yeah, I like Volkanovski. I think Zombie he's not a live dog, but I wouldn't be that surprised if he managed to pull something off. I think Volkanovski, we seen with Ortega, he was able to dominate that fight, but he also leaves openings against people I don't think Max Holloway would leave openings against. So I think Zombie could potentially go in there and crack him early, but at this point, Volkanovski is, he's on the Usman level where he just seems to be really good at everything, and he really just seems to put it all together. And he's also very smart in there. So I expect him to kind of, dodge some maybe tough moments in the early goings. I think Zombie does hit hard, and he could cause a threat that way. If Volkanovski is not the biggest guy at featherweight, so if he gets tagged by someone like Zombie, I don't know what's going to happen. So, but yeah, ultimately, I am going Volkanovski. I think he is polished, and it's all about how he wins. I think, he could cruise to a boring 5-round decision, or he can go in and make a statement and take out Zombie. And I think that would be such a huge one because, as good as Ortega looked against him, he weren't even able to get him out there. He's such a tough cookie. And, we seen what it took to actually stop him. It was that elbow from Raya Rodriguez. So it's something, just absolutely mental. So I think for Volkanovski, his task is not only go in and win, he has to go in and look really good. Whereas Zombie kind of comes in here free. He's not necessarily even like one of the top contenders, but he's got this chance and he can just go and start throwing hands and see what happens. So I am quite excited, but obviously the fight we do want is Max Holloway, Volkanovski 3, and hopefully get that this year.
Yeah. I mean, I know Josh Emmett recently said that it was between him or Chance and Jung who got the Volk fight. And I would have, in all honesty, preferred that one just because, you've got the wrestling and the power of Emmett, which I think is on a slightly higher level than Zombie's. The thing is, look, Zombie's last fight against Dan Ige, he heavily relied on the wrestling to get that win, right? That's his most recent win. And you can't sit there and say that Zombie's got better wrestling or any sort of ground fighting than Volkanovski. Volkanovski is elite there. Then on the feet, I know it's MMA math to an extent, but Brian Ortega, he outstruck Zombie for the most part. And then what happened in Volkanovski's most recent title defense, he outstruck Brian Ortega for about 4 rounds. Maybe the last round was a bit nip tuck for him, but I just think there's too much to Volk's game at this point. Obviously training with, 2 elite camps, first with Joe Lopez in Australia, and then of course the CKB guys in Adesanya, Hooker, Kai Kara France, etc. There's just so much to his game. He's got the feints down, he's got the low kicks down, which I think could really chew up Jung's leg and start to limit that movement as the fight goes on. And I think a stoppage is live, especially from like a ground and pound situation. I can imagine Volk getting top pressure, just raining down strikes. You remember the 4th round against Ortega when he postures up, and Ortega, I mean, let's be honest, that fight should have been finished because he wasn't able to stand up without the help of his corner. I could easily see a situation similar to that, just because of also Volkanovski's strength. I think he's going to be much stronger than Zombie in there. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a 3rd, 4th round stoppage. especially from a sort of ground and pound, maybe club and sub sort of situation.
No, I'm with you totally on that one. And before that, we've got, a huge fight between Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan. It's ended up being a unification fight between the interim champ and Sterling, who is the champ, despite, a lot of people not liking it. First fight it was nip and tuck. I think a lot of people forget that. Sterling early on was doing good work. But Yan did take over, seemed to be on the verge of stopping him. And then, for some reason decides to hit him with an illegal knee, gets disqualified, and here we are. I think it's more than a year later now. So, this fight, I am with Yan. Like, for me, pound for pound, Yan is the best fighter, and I know right now it's Kamaru Usman on top, and deserves so. But I think by the end of 22, we're all going to be thinking, Yan is the guy. I honestly do think he's just a cut above everyone at 135. And that's me. That's the highest praise I can possibly give him, because 135 is the most stacked division in MMA, full stop. I speak about it every time I'm speaking with a bantamweight fighter and I'm interviewing. I'm saying there's about 30 guys who would all, have the ability to be in the rankings, but there's just not enough spots. And he is the creme de la creme. He is above them all. I expect them to take out Sterling, pretty easily in this one. And I do rate Sterling, but coming off a neck injury, after the last fight, I think Jan's is someone, once he shares a few rounds with you, then he's got your number, and I think he's got his number now. Then expect him to take out TJ Dillashaw or Jose Aldo, whoever's next, then probably get 3 good wins under his belt this year, and then by the end, I think he will be pound for pound number 1. That's how highly I rate him. That's how I see this fight going. How do you see it?
Yeah, honestly, I sort of echo a lot of the sentiments that you say. And yeah, I think it was spot on talking about that first fight with, like, honestly, those first 2 rounds probably would have gone to Sterling, apart from the fact that I think he was probably dropped in both rounds, which will have stemmed it Jan's way. But yeah, like I sort of said before, I'd probably give Volk the number 1 spot in my opinion, but Jan is still up there as well. He is elite. And that fight with Corey Sandhagen was nothing short of spectacular. I think Sterling, maybe he's saying now he's got that neck surgery. He's able to like train to a higher extent and going to be able to push himself more, and he won't run out of gas this time. So maybe the wrestling exchanges, if he could get Yan down, and you remember how he also defeated Corey Sandhagen, tapped him in 1 round, which was really spectacular. Obviously, Sandhagen not as well versed in the wrestling defense as Yan, but so the way I look at it, Zombie versus Volkanovski, clear favorite being Volkanovski, and this one I say favorite to Yan, but like not quite as clear. I think there are chances for Sterling to sort of maybe pull something out that we haven't seen before. He has taken a lot of time out, which is good after surgery, full recuperation. But yeah, ultimately, I can't bet against Petr Yan at this point, just because he's looked so incredible. Yeah, and
to be honest, I haven't betting on the upset. I am betting on the main event rather than the co-main event. I do think Aljamain Sterling, although he did do well in the first few rounds, I do think the reason he gassed out is because he had to put 100% effort out just to keep up with Yan, who was in cruise control. And he goes through the gears as the rounds progressing, and that's why I'm such a fan. And I think Sterling is such an elite fighter as well, but obviously with the layoff and things like that, with the last fight, I just don't see him being as competitive or at all competitive in this one. I do think Jan's going to have his way, but that doesn't mean it's not a great fight, and it's great to get some type of closure on this whole title situation, because it was sad to see that the title change hands in that way, especially when Yan was on the cusp of actually doing something really great. Sterling being on that run, as you said, wiped out Corey Sandhagen in a round, and to get that win would have been huge for him. So either way, win or lose for Yan or Sterling, I'm just glad to see this kind of put to bed, and we can kind of move on, because TJ Dillashaw is right there. That's an exciting fight. We've got a few other contenders coming up, so it's exciting times for that division. And another division which is also exciting, and it's mainly to the rise of Khamzat Chimaev, is the welterweight division, and he's in there with Gilbert Burns, and it's such a huge step up. 4 fights so far in the UFC, 4 very easy wins, but from his last opponent, Jing Liang, to Gilbert Burns, it's such a huge step up, isn't it?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, Burns has proved that he is, rightly amongst the elite of the welterweight division. This is since making the move up to 170 pounds, he has thrived. And yeah, this is the one, isn't it, for Khamzat? Like, is he all that the hype has made him up to be? The win against Li Jingliang was incredible. Like, Jingliang, top 15 fighter, definitely. He's earned his place there. He's got some big wins in the division. And the ease of which Khamzat dispatched him was just like, it's unprecedented. You don't see that sort of thing happen, especially with a guy with only 4 fights in his career. In his UFC career. Gilbert Burns, yeah, he's good. He's got some power. Remember, I think he dropped Kamaru Usman in their fight. And obviously, we all know about his BJJ credentials. But I think this is another one where, like, just pure athleticism, the strength of Khamzat, I think, is just going to allow him to overpower Burns, smother any sort of submission attempts off his back. And honestly, I would not be surprised to see yet another first, maybe second round finish. Yeah, do you see an upset in this one?
Yeah, no, I've got Khamzat all day. I was thinking upset because he is the unranked fighter, or wherever he's ranked, against Gilbert Burns, the former title challenger. So, but he is the odds-on favourite, and I'm not really one of them people. I do like a good hype train, and it's usually after the UFC debut I kind of get on them. But this is like someone shooting this far, this quickly, and seems to be in line for the title shot. And I'm fully on board. I just think he's the guy. And it's not even just what the in-cage stuff, which is, super impressive. It's just when you see the way he behaves and acts and trains and things like that's a big sell for me. And then also the way other people speak about him. You've got Alexander Gustafsson coming out and just saying, yeah, he's been mauling everyone in our gym for years. Like, he's never lost a round and things like this. And these are, top tier guys. And someone like Till going over and training with him, and just, you can kind of see Till's eyes open, and he's like, well, I'm not doing this work, and I need to be doing what he's doing if I want to be this type of fighter. So just a lot of things inside and outside the cage have totally sold me on him. I think he'll beat Burns. I think when he gets to Usman, he'll beat Usman. I don't think Usman will really want that fight. I think, it's not necessarily the big money fight, and there's a reason why he's kind of looking at Canelo, kind of hoping for something like that. But I think Chimaev, he'll probably do great work, win the belt, and then go up and do the same at middleweight. For me to say that after 4 fights against, not the best opposition, it's crazy, and we might all look stupid, come Sunday morning. And Burns might just wipe him out in a round. We don't know if he's out, what his chin's like yet. We don't know what his submission defense is like yet, or his grappling defense. So a lot of unanswered questions, but I think a few are going to get answered this weekend, and I think we're all going to be right. But if we're not, Burns will beat him absolutely, because he is a top tier fighter. But I'm convinced that Chimaev is a step above.
Yeah. All the block asset work with Till and everything, you've seen the behind the scenes stuff with Khamzat, and it just gives you some sort of idea of how hard he does work. And like, the man is like even out of camp, he's like absolutely jacked. You see guys like Paddy Pimblett bloating up like anything after a fight, whereas Khamzat is never. And yeah, also the mindset he seems to have as well. He doesn't drink, he doesn't party, he doesn't do anything like that. He's just dedicated to his craft. And I sort of echo what you say with the Usman thing as well. I don't think Usman will won that fight. You know what? I reckon that the UFC are sort of following this mindset as well. They reckon he will beat Usman, go up to middleweight. That's why they're pushing Alex Pereira now to go fight Sean Strickland so they can make the Israel Adesanya Alex Pereira fight as quick as possible, because I'm pretty sure they think they're going to end up with Khamzat Chimaev double champion in the near future, maybe even triple champion.
Yeah, and the thing is, at welterweight, he is just so big. Like,
yeah,
you know, the fact he makes welterweight is amazing. The fact he made it, I think, was within 10 days of a UFC debut as well, was amazing. Kamaru Usman, he has been successful against smaller guys. I would say Gilbert Burns coming from 155. Jorge Masvidal done a lot of his work at 155. Colby Covington, admittedly, he doesn't cut any weight, I don't think at all, or cuts about 5 to 10 pounds. He's not a big guy either. Khamzat Chimaev is huge guy. Do I see Usman being able to wrestle him? I don't. I think he's too big, and then he's got to. We haven't seen much of his striking yet, but what we did see is, you know, he's got the power too. So knocking out middleweights. So very interesting. I am picking Chimaev. I'm just interested to watch this fight. I don't have a prediction on how it'll go or what will happen, but I can. If I'm thinking of how he's going to finish it, I'm edging towards he might finish it on the feet. You know, after his initial good first round, Burns looked a bit chinny on the feet against Usman. You know, so and you know, Usman is not necessarily a huge power puncher or a great boxer. So I was kind of surprised at how easily he was taken out in the end. So Chimaev on the feet maybe, but I'm honestly just going to sit back and relax and enjoy this. And I'm just, the only thing I'm disappointed about is this 5 rounds or is this 3 rounds?
3, I'm pretty sure.
3. That's a disappointment, because I think the one thing that does test a lot of these fighters is that jump from, you know, the cardio. The cardio could come an issue. I know Chimaev trains hard, but 25 minutes of the way he fights, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. So him actually doing it, I think that's his true test. You know, championship rounds. That's the difference between, you know, the greats and the goods, and we'll find out down the line. But for now, I think he'll get the win.
That's fair, but you got to remember he is still only 4 fights into his career, UFC career. So I suppose you can cut him some slack in that regard, and also the way he fights, will it even go past 2 rounds? Like, not so far. But yeah, the future is bright for Khamzat Chimaev, and I just can't wait to see him in action, finally against some properly elite competition.
Absolutely. And before that, we've got a strawweight fight between 2 of the best in the division. We've got Mackenzie Dern, Tisha Torres. How do you see this one playing out?
See, yeah, this is one of the ones on this card that I don't have a clear read on, because Mackenzie Dern, her last fight, that was the Marina Rodriguez fight, wasn't it? I believe. Yeah. Where she was essentially outclassed for every second the fight was on the feet. And I think over the whole fight, it was probably can't have been more than 3 or 4 minutes on the ground. But in those 4 minutes, she looked so dangerous, like locking up submissions at will. Marina Rodriguez, credit to her, wasn't submitted, but it was incredibly close. And I think she might have been saved by the bell at least once. Tisha Torres, I mean, the Tiny Tornado is the perfect nickname for her. She just blitzed her opponent. Her return fight, no, not return fight, but her fight with Sam Hughes. I believe Hughes stepped in on short notice, but just the blitzes from her were so fast and incredible. She looked just strong, like stronger than I've seen her before, I think. So yeah, I think it'll probably lead to a Tisha Torres decision. I think because she is, you sometimes get these smaller, slightly stockier fighters are harder to take down. And we all know, whilst Dern is a wizard on the ground, she really is. Her takedowns aren't exceptional. I suppose there's a chance you could catch Torres like running in, because Torres does love to do that. But Torres is a great scrambler as well. So yeah, I think I would lean to Tisha Torres just edging a win. See, I say edging a win, but I could think she could easily win all 3 rounds, but in each round be in incredible danger for about 50 seconds or so. So yeah, I lean Torres, but Mackenzie Dern is just an interesting fighter, because it's not so often in women's divisions that you get fighters who have the ability to end a fight just like that, just gone, because she can do that. You saw, who's the knee bar against? I can't remember the lass's name, but yeah, she can just lock on a submission just like that, and the fight is gone. But I think I'm just about leaning towards Tecia Torres.
I'm actually going the other way on this one. I'm going for Mackenzie Dern. I think I was disappointed in the last fight against Rodriguez. I thought we'd seen improvements in her striking ability, but when she got that win over Jandiroba, I thought she looked decent on the feet, but that was, this last fight was a real throwback to there was still work to be done. But I think in this one, you've kind of just said the way I think the fight's going to go. Tecia Torres is great when she gets into her groove and is able to get in, blitz out. I think it's very dangerous to try and blitz in against Mackenzie Dern because she can just dip down, grab your legs and get on top of you. And then the thing also becomes, Mackenzie Dern's one of the bigger girls at strawweight. Tecia Torres is one of the smaller ones. Once Dern gets on top, I think it's going to be really hard for Torres to pop back up to her feet. So I'm interested to see how the scrambles turn out. So I can see what you're saying, Torres dominating a lot of the fight, but being in danger. But I can also see Dern getting it down really quick and pulling off a submission. I don't think Torres has ever been submitted, so it would be quick. It'd be a really good win on Dern's record. The problem is I don't see Tecia Torres's game meshing well with the way Dern fights, so she would have to change her style, because I just think if she does blitz in, and it's been so great to watch her last 3 fights, she put 3 wins together, looked really, really good against lower level opposition, I would say, than Dern. So I think this is a really acid test, and if she is actually going to get into title contention, because a win over Dern, I think Tecia Torres is 32 now. A win over Dern's huge. She's potentially just one win away from a title shot after that, and Dern just needs to get back on the horse. So I am picking Dern. I think she'll be able to get her down and submit her, or at least dominate on the floor for a lot of the fight and get a decision victory.
Yeah, I honestly think that's a completely fair assessment. Like I say, it's razor close. I just think Dern looked so poor in that fight with Rodriguez. Not only in the striking but also in the takedowns, which is what leans me towards the Torres side. But yeah, I mean, like I say, Dern could snap up that submission just like that. And I think, yeah, either of these women are a win here. Yeah, we'll probably put them 1 win away from a title shot in what is a really stacked division now. Win the strawweight is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and before that, we've got a new addition to the card, Alexei Oleinik, Leah Latifi. They were supposed to fight last week, I think, on Curtis Blade's card. Illness ruled. Latifi, what was it? Latifi. So obviously, it went the worst sickness in the world on the back at UFC 273. Probably one of the fights I'm not particularly invested in. I like Oleinik, but at this point, he's way into his 40s at this point.
42, I think. Yeah.
44 years now.
Bloody hell.
He's on a 3-fight losing streak. And where is he going with it? It is cool to kind of watch him rack up all these wins. 59 wins. It'd be great to see him to get to 60 and call it a day. And against Latifi is probably someone he should be could beat. Latifi's not being particularly impressive either. Three losses at 2 losses at light heavyweight, jumped up to heavyweight, lost to Derek Lewis, fair dues, then got a split decision over Tanner Bosa. I don't remember being particularly impressed by either guy in that fight. So I don't have a prediction. It's not one I'll particularly be invested in, but you never know. With heavyweight, it could end be fun. What do you feel about this fight?
Yeah, I mean, once again, I echo quite a lot of your sentiments. It's not a fight I particularly care for. It wasn't a fight I cared for last week. It's not one I care for this week. Having said that, I actually lean towards Ilir Latifi in this one. I just think, for 2 reasons primarily. First, Oleinik is chinny now. He's been chinny for most of his career, but he's incredibly chinny now. And Latifi, he kind of hits hard if he chooses to. He loves to wrestle these days, but he does hit hard, and he's got a solid camp. He trains with Chimaev, Gustafsson, and obviously Till lately as well, which is doesn't hurt. And then the second thing, he doesn't have a chin, not a chin, sorry, he doesn't have a neck. I don't know how he's never lost by submission in his entire career. I don't know how Oleinik's going to wrap something up. You know, he loves the Ezekiel joke from his back, but I can't I can't see him wrapping up on Ilir, who's just this sort of compact ball of muscle. So yeah, in all honesty, I don't see the fight going past 2 rounds. I think Latifi probably will knock him out. Don't really know how. Maybe even just like once again, just ground and pound him from the top. If Oleinik's just like chasing submissions from the ground. But yeah, I don't have much of a read, and I don't have much interest in all honesty.
Yeah, and the fight before that, I absolutely do have an interest in Kelvin Gastelum. You know, he's been one of the top guys for a while, but off the boil as of late. What's he lost? 5 of his last 6, so it hasn't been great. And obviously, the talk from a lot of people is he should be fighting at welterweight, not middleweight, but that's not where he's at. He was supposed to fight Nazardine Imavov, who I spoke to a couple of months back about this fight, and Imavov looks like a true contender, but I think visa issues have ruled him out. So in steps Dricus du Plessis. Am I saying that right? I hope so.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Dricus du Plessis, and I am a big fan because he talks well, he fights well, he's got he's savage style, and this could be his coming out party, you know, on the main card of a pay-per-view against someone like Gastelum. Huge opportunity, but then a huge one for Gastelum to get back, you know, in the win column and back on the right track, because it hasn't been great lately. And from someone who did push Adesanya so much, and we all thought he was going to be a champion, and he still might be, but it hasn't been going well. I'm not sure how this fight's going to go. It honestly is. It is a 50-50. I probably do edge Dricus just because he's got that. I don't know. He's just got that. It just seems like it's his moment right now. But he does get hit a lot, and Gastelum hits hard, so it could go the other way as well. How do you see it?
Yeah, I'm on the Gastelum train for this one. I think Dricus I think he's great, but I think he could have done with a couple more, you know, sort of like guys ranked, you know, in the unofficial sort of mid-20 region. As it stands right now, I think he's a little bit of a KO or bust sort of fighter. He's very much reliant on his power and his ability to, even if not knocking out someone, just rocking them. And say what you want about Kevin Gastelum, the man has a chin. Like he's taken some incredible shots. I don't know, has he ever been finished? Certainly not a middleweight.
Not from what I can remember.
Well, not knocked out at the very least. Yeah, he got submitted by Chris Weidman. Yeah, and the thing is, whilst Gastelum has lost, like you say, 5 of his last 6, every single one of those fights is against truly elite opposition. And then when you put him against Ian Heinisch, which is his one win in that mix, and I still rate Heinisch, but I think he is more of that sort of similar level to du Plessis. He goes out and puts on a really impressive performance and dominates him. I'm leaning to that happening this time. I think maybe du Plessis does land some big shots on him, but I think Kelvin can just take them. And he is a solid mixed martial artist as well. He can take the fight to the ground if he needs to, and he can stand in the pocket. His awkward sort of southpaw stance gave Izzy fits. We all remember that fight. That was one of the fights of the year, if not one of the fights full time. So yeah, I think honestly, I think Gastelum is very lucky having Imavov fall out and having du Plessis come in, because I was backing Imavov quite heavily. I really rate him. But yeah, this fight, I think Kelvin Gastelum probably by decision is the way I see it playing out. Du Plessis has 2 losses on the record. I'm not sure if he's been knocked out. Yes, he has, by Roberto Soldic at KSW. So yeah, I think Kelvin Gastelum by decision is probably the way I see it playing out.
Yeah, you make a lot of good points there, because Kelvin he's a tough cookie, isn't he? And he's not going to go down easy, and this is probably a bit early for du Plessis, but I always like to back the up-and-comer as well, because he is 28, he is just kind of getting into a stride. This is his moment. Does Kelvin even want it anymore? Like the way he acts and the way he fights lately, I'm not sure how he feels towards fighting. So this is one of them fights you kind of sit back and enjoy and just not think about it too much. But if he went in there and knocked out Kelvin Gastelum, it'd be such a statement. It'd be huge for him. But Kelvin would be he'd be definitely done at middleweight. So there is a lot on the line in this fight. And as you said, I was backing him up as well. I think the UFC are not doing Gastelum any favors. I think they seem to be done with him at this point because they're feeding them to all the, like, they're just giving them crap fight basically, because Robert Whittaker was short notice, Jared Cannonier was fit, not short notice, but he was a replacement opponent. It seemed, and now they fed him to two up and comers. It sounds like the UFC are kind of, I've jumped off the Kelvin Gastelum train. So very interested to see if he does lose, what happens to him, because I think he might be off to Eagle FC or something like that after this one. But yeah, very interesting fight, and that is the main card, and we'll touch on the undercard. And the featured prelim is Aspen Ladd against Raquel Pennington, another replacement opponent. Aspen Ladd was supposed to face Irene Aldana, a fight I didn't give her much chance in, but I think she might actually pull it off against Pennington. How do you see it going?
Yeah. I think the short notice nature of the fight might play into Aspen's favor. I'm a huge Raquel fan, actually. I thought her last couple of performances have really been impressive. Macy Chiasson and the Pani Kianzad fight as well. Her boxing is really clean. She got that sort of modified guillotine choke against Macy. So it's genuinely an interesting fight. I don't have a clear read on it, in all honesty. It'll probably go the full 3 rounds. Ladd is a big fighter, and she was sort of touted to be the next big thing. Is it a featherweight? Is it this one? Yeah. Or at least that's what Topology is saying. Maybe due to the short notice nature of it.
I've got bantamweights because Pennington dropped down to flyweight, didn't she? Or was it featherweight?
The Chiasson fight was...
Yeah, so
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter because they are similarly sized. I don't think it's, anyone really benefits from a particular size advantage. So I edge Ladd, but I do think they're similar fighters. I think they've both got, like Pennington at this point. I'd be very surprised if she mounts a title challenge again. And Aspen Ladd, she's young, so she's got a lot of time to work on it. But we've seen in the last fight, and she was way off against Dumont, and that was a featherweight debut, and she probably shouldn't have been fighting a featherweight. So I'd hope she goes back down to bantamweight and really starts to get it together, because obviously before that we didn't see her for a couple, pretty much 2 years, from 2019 to 2021. So I'm hoping she's like kind of shook the cobwebs off, and she's a bit on it this time, because she's gonna have to be, because Pennington, she kind of comes with the same thing every time. She puts it on you, she puts a pace on you, and some people sink, some people swim. So it's an interesting fight. I do think Aspen Ladd has benefited, because I think Irene Aldana is such a much tougher fight, and this is a good chance for Ladd to kind of get in there against a good opponent, not a great opponent, and get back in the win column. And I think that's what you need, just for confidence and just for her career trajectory, just to get back in the win columns would be huge.
It's a great sort of litmus test for her, really. Like, Pennington is a good fighter, and she's always been a good fighter. If Ladd is to live up to this sort of, it's not hype anymore, but she still has shown great skills in the past. If she is to live up to that potential that people have touted her having in the past, then she has to win this sort of fight. She really does, especially after the Dumont performance.
Yeah, and before that, we've got the last one I'm really interested on the card is Ian Garry against Darian Weeks. Garry, we come in on his UFC debut. He knocked out his opponents in the first round, but still there was people saying, you know what, he weren't that impressive, for all the talk and all the hype and, being a Cage Warriors champion and like the comparisons to Conor McGregor. He struggled for moments against Jordan Williams. How before we get into this fight, how did you see Ian Garry's debut?
Yeah, he got cracked. Got cracked a few times, didn't he? I wasn't sure. I remember speaking to Bradley Wharton shortly after, the Cage Warriors commentator, who's obviously watched Garry's career going up, and I was sort of asking him, like, was it a skill deficit, stepping up to this next level of elite fighter that's in the UFC? Or was it more of a bright lights thing? You know, stepping out. And it was a pay-per-view, wasn't it, for his UFC debut, which is a massive undertaking for a young lad at a time, only with 7 fights under his belt. So, and Wharton said, yeah, he reckoned it was just completely like, oof, stepping out in front of all these people. Took a bit of time to settle down. And to be fair, that it does make sense. You know, once he did settle, that's when he gets that beautiful counter that just sends his opponent crashing to the ground. But he still got cracked. So I don't know. This is another one which I guess kind of similar, lower down the pecking order, but similar to the lad Pennington. If Garry is to live up to the hype that's around his name, he has to go out and beat someone like Weeks. Weeks, he made his, what was he, 5-1 right now? Made his UFC debut on short notice against Brian Barberina. Took him the full distance and was competitive, but definitely lost that fight. Close one, must win for Ian Garry to live up to the hype, though.
Yeah, and I agree with what Bradley had to say to you, because I think it was a case of Garry kind of getting, UFC jitters, but also getting caught up in the moment of I want this big moment of a big KO, or I want to really stand out and on this card and make such a big statement, and he did. But obviously it was a great card, and his KO was not necessarily one of the better ones of the night. So I'm fully on the Ian Garry hype train. It's similar to the Chimaev one, because I spoke to Ian before his UFC debut, and I was kind of, he's moved over to he's at Sanford now, isn't he, with the likes of Gilbert Burns and people like that. Michael Chandler, I think's there as well. There's a bunch of killers. And I kind of said to him, since you've moved there, does it feel like you're kind of swimming with sharks? You're in the deep end with all these, world-class athletes. And he kind of got, he weren't, rude or anything like that. But I felt like I offended him, because he was like, no, I'm one of the sharks. I absolutely hold my own. And since then, we've seen a lot of fighters from the gym come out and kind of say, Ian Garry's the man. That, they're all talking him up, and he obviously is one of the sharks in there as well. So I think Darian Weeks is a nice opponent for him. Another one where he can go in and make a statement. And I hope, this time, on a lesser card, I would say, obviously this is a good card. We've been speaking about it, but it's not, Madison Square Garden or wherever the last fight was. This is more of a, your run-of-the-mill pay-per-view show, not the one we saw last time. So yeah, I expect Ian to go in, look flawless, probably get a bonus, and that's where the real hype can begin. I think the jitters are gone, the need to go out and smash someone, it will come when it comes, and I think that's what's made him so great so far. So it'll be great to see Ian back in there, and yeah, really can't wait for that one.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I really want to see him succeed. It's just, if you look at him, compare him to Khamzat Chimaev, like you just did, Chimaev's debut versus Garry's debut, there are just sort of holes in that performance. And yeah, like I say, this is the fight that it's his chance to sort of rectify that, to get guys fully on board the Ian Garry hype train. It really is, because he's a good fighter, and to guys who watched him on Cage Warriors, some of his performances were absolutely exceptional. The Jack Grant fight was absolutely awesome, and that was him walking out with no corner team and all that. It was just a great sort of spectacle, and that's what got him signed to the UFC. So yeah, it's a must win, and I want to see him do well. I just feel like I need to see him do well before I can fully get behind him as much as I am, say, Chimaev.
Yeah, and also Chimaev is a few years older. I think Chimaev is more like 28 and Garry's 24. So there's time there, and I think he is pretty content taking his time, and he's in the best place he can be. Sanford MMA with all them killers, working with the best, living the life. I really, there is something for staying at home and learn your craft from your team and sticking with your people, and I do respect that. But there's also a point where, maybe I need to take myself away. I can perform better when I'm living the life. I'm living away from my comforts, away from my family, and I can concentrate solely on my craft. So yeah, really excited. I think he's going to go out. He's going to look sensational. It's more about, the next 2, 3, 4 fights for him, and hopefully it's a busy 2022. Hopefully we get some more European shows this year, and he can get on one of them and bring it back to his ways. But that is the main fight I'm interested in. Before that, it's not the most stacked card. Obviously, the last one I will touch on actually is Jairzinho Rosenstruik against Tybura. Rosenstruik's been a guy who's been in the main event more than not lately, and let's be honest, they haven't been particularly exciting fights. So back down to the prelims against Tybura. How do you see it?
Yeah, it's actually quite an interesting one because Tybura's he's had a lot of success against guys who rush in and like first round KO artists like Greg Hardy and Walt Harris, I believe. Guys who really are like, that first round and a half will try to knock you out as quick as they can. And he will just weather that storm, tire them out, and then finish them with like ground and pound of submissions. Rosenstruik is not that sort of fighter. He loves, his main thing is the counter, isn't it? He loves to let people come in and hit him. So he probably won't gas like much of Tybura's previous opponents. Whether this ends up being like another painful Rosenstruik stalemate sort of fight, maybe, but then I don't know. Rosenstruik's takedown defense didn't look great against Curtis Blades. Tybura has a pretty good takedown game, so yeah, not a clear read on who wins, but I kind of like the dynamic because I think it's going to force both fighters to fight a little bit differently to how they used to.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that obviously Tybura's been on that run and a good run of good victories, 5 wins in a row, but then he steps up and he loses against Volkov, and before that it was Augusto Sakai. So it's about him getting over that hump now. I think for Tybura, 36 years old, it kind of is now or never. And I think Rosenstruik, other than losing against top opposition, I don't think he's looked too bad at all. And Ngannou wiped him out in around 20 seconds. No shame in that. It happens. Cyril Gane, that was a disappointing performance because neither guy really did anything. They were so scared of each other. There was no real winner. I don't think Gane looked particularly great in that either. But then the Blades one as well. Blades is potentially going for the interim title soon. So no shame in that. And for Tybura to actually beat someone like Rosenstruik would be huge for him. Would it be massive for Rosenstruik? I think that would be that would really derail what he's got going on. So I do edge Rosenstruik. He could potentially take him out early as well and look really impressive. But as you say, good matchup, interesting fights, and that is all I've got from this card. Is there anything else standing out for you?
Only that Mickey Gall's fighting, and I would love to see Mickey Gall fight Ian Garry should they both be victorious tonight. That's a fight that I sort of been calling for from the get-go, and I just think, I mean, it probably would have sort of shades of Garry versus Jack Grant again. But yeah, I mean, Vince Pichel versus Mark Madsen, that's fun. They're both guys who could go far, but they're both sort of getting on a bit in their career. And Julio Arce versus Daniel Santos should just be a sort of like barn burner-esque fight. Not too many stakes on it at all, but just sort of fun fight to watch. Yeah,
and as you said, Mickey Gall is a good potential opponent, and he's 30 now, and he seems to burst on the scene with that CM Punk win, but he's never really catapulted himself into what we thought he might be at that point. Wins and losses, and losing to the old school Diego Sanchez, Mike Perry, I think out wrestled him. Just certain things where you're not sure, but then he come in and he took out Jordan Williams super quick as well, and he's so it's been win loss win, and he's due a win. And if he gets it, that could set up an Ian Garry fight, which would be really interesting. It'd be a good names for Garry. I think that's what he should be looking at this point. Good names, but not necessarily top tier opposition, because there's plenty of time for that. I think he should take his time. And that is the card, and it is a fun card, definitely. I think at the top, then first 3 fights are absolute bangers, and then below that we've got a couple really good fights, nice undercard, and it's going to be fun. April 9th. Where is it? In Jacksonville, Florida. And can't wait. This will be my last podcast with LowKick. I am moving on, and Frank will be taking over. Obviously, that's why he's here today, and he'll be bringing you these podcasts moving forward. But before I go, I just want to say it's been great, doing these every so often and interacting with the fans and all these things and speaking about the fights. And I'm sure Frank will do a great job. And thanks for joining me today as well, Frank.
No, yeah, it's my pleasure. And it's well, I say it's obviously sad to see you go, but you're going on to bigger and better things. And hopefully I can sort of live up to the sort of high bar that you've already set.
Yeah, well, the best thing about these, I know a lot of people take podcasts like so seriously, but I just get on here and I just talk as a fan, and that's why we've lately we've just been doing the pay-per-views, because it was becoming something of a show where every week there's a card, every week there's something, and there's not necessarily always something great to say about it. So when I'm excited for the fights, it comes across in these podcasts, and it's a great way to get excited. Just speaking about these fights with you right now, I'm kind of annoyed we've got to wait about 10 days for this card now, because it is absolutely a banger. And I think that's what you'll find with doing these type of things, interacting with people in the MMA media space and speaking about fights. It's it's what we do, it's what we live for, and that's why we are such big fans. So it's been great. And as I said, thanks for joining me, Frank.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.